Okay. Welcome to Podnutz Daily for August 6, 2008. This is episode 51, I think. I got to check on that. I think I'm right, though. Okay, I'm going to start off. Let's start off on a good note, and then I'll go into the bad note. Don't get worried. Not too bad for you guys. Bad for me. Thank you for everybody who's entering the iPod Nano Contest. And for those of you who answered the question, the trivia question, correctly, I will tell you tomorrow who gets the extra points for that. Sorry if you're waiting for me to do it today. I just did not have time, so I'm sorry about that. But thank you for entering. You will know tomorrow who's getting the extra credit points for the correct answer on the Podnutz guests. By the way, guys, in the iPod Nano contest, I'm giving away an iPod Nano this Friday, okay? There's only a few people who entered. If you want your odds to go up, you got to enter. To enter the contest, you need to just have somebody you know subscribe to Podnutz or Podnutz Daily, and then you have to email me that you did it. Because I can't tell who did it just from somebody subscribing. You got to email me that you did it at mail@podnutzdaily.com. In the subject line, put contest. Okay. Now I need help, and here's how you might be able to get a little extra credit on the iPod contest. I messed up big time today. I had a guy who brought in a computer, and he had a laptop, and he's a landscaper. He does all of his landscaping record keeping in this laptop. He actually brought in two laptops. The first laptop was giving him trouble. It would turn off after he used it for a while, which I think is an overheat problem. But I didn't have a real chance to check that out yet. But what he wanted was the data on the overheating laptop, all of his records that he spent several hours this past weekend working on, moved over to his other laptop because the laptop that was turning off all the time was just giving him too much trouble, and he needed it on the other laptop fast. So I was going to fix the shutting down laptop, in the meantime while he was using the other laptop. All right, I'm going to make this long story short. I fired up I took out the laptop out of the laptop that was shutting down, which had all his current data on it, and I hooked it up to the other laptop to copy it over. And I did that using one of those, IDE to USB cords. Works great for that. The other computer recognized the hard drive. I saw all the data that needed to be transferred over, and I copied his QuickBooks data over. Now, the other program he uses for his record keeping is this little DOS program that somebody had written for landscapers to keep track of all their jobs. And it's like DOS. It's old. It's got a very, very simple interface. And what I accidentally did was I copied all of his old data using this DOS program to the hard drive and overwrote all of the new data that was on the external hard drive. So I didn't delete the files off of the external hard drive. I overwrote them. Actually, I blame this DOS program. This DOS program overwrote all of the old files on top of the new files on the external hard drive. Now, I know how to recover files with Recover My Files, but overwritten files, I'm not sure how to recover overwritten files. I'm running Recover My Files right now, which is the program I use, and it found some stuff, but it seems like a lot of stuff is missing. If anybody knows how to recover overwritten files in Windows, please let me know. Now, I don't have my Skype hooked up. I left the MacBook at the shop. But if you could email me before 7 o'clock tonight, Eastern Time, because that's when I'm going back to check if Recover My Files found anything. If you want to email me at mail@podnutzdaily.com and give me a suggestion that will work to recover overwritten files, I would really appreciate that. And if somebody gives me a solution that works, I will give them 5 extra credit votes for the iPod Nano contest. So you increase your odds of winning by 5, or however that math works out. But you get 5 extra entries into the contest if your solution works. So send me working solutions if you have any. I would really need that help right now. Otherwise, I'm probably going to end up doing 10 hours of that guy's work or working some kind of trade, but I'm going to be losing out in the deal. And sometimes those mistakes just happen, and It's a terrible day when they do. Oh, man, I was almost crying when that happened. Okay, enough sad things about me. Did a Dell power jack repair today. It's one of those power jacks that I hate. It's the one that has the big tube of a middle pin, and the adapter is actually like a thin tube itself, and it slides over the tube in the middle. These are ridiculously built. There's inner workings in these jacks that you cannot see unless you remove the metal case, where they connect. All the leads will connect to the bottom of the jack in some fashion, and if you pull a little too hard on those jacks, those connections come apart. So you just have to replace those jacks. One thing I wanted to mention about replacing those jacks, sometimes when you replace that jack, the leads don't go through the motherboard very far. Like, in other words, when you push the jack down through the holes in the motherboard, the leads just pop out just a little bit. So you have to make sure you make a connection with your solder with those leads on the end of that motherboard. You either need to use a bit of a hotter soldering iron to make sure that solder's melting into the hole, or what I like to do is I solder them and I make sure that the solder's melted on all the leads that are on through the motherboard, and then I use a layer of epoxy, like 5-minute epoxy. That's the kind where you have the two tubes, you spit them together and you mix it all up, and then you got 5 minutes to apply it. I just take a toothpick and I run it around the edge of that power adapter. Now, epoxy is not a conductor, so you don't have to worry about shorting anything out. And just run a thin layer of epoxy around there. If you think it's not going to hold, you need a little extra boost, that's what I've been doing. It seems to be working. But you really want to make sure, first and foremost, that you have the soldering done properly, because that solder is going to hold that jack onto the motherboard. Now, in the meantime, while I was trying all day to get these guys' files back, my dad had a kick butt day. He was replacing motherboards, power supplies, and everything like that, and he did good. So he made up for my slack. Okay, I don't have the MacBook. I'm not going to play any calls, but I did see that Mark called and left a message on Skype. Mark, I'm going to play it tomorrow because I need the MacBook to play the Skype on the air. And let me read some emails, and then I'll look at the chat room, how you guys are, if you have any suggestions for me about recovering those files. I want good, positive suggestions, Sax. I saw what you wrote. Jeffrey Taylor writes, I'm sorry if you didn't want me to say your last name. Jeffrey says, I put this in the forum, but I thought you might want to read it on the air also. A customer brings in a computer after a storm and says it doesn't work anymore. It's an HP Pavilion A320N desktop. As soon as the power cord is plugged in, the blue power light comes on in the front, solid. At this point, the computer is not running, and pressing the power button does nothing.